Well, welcome to the Vinyl Frontier podcast. My name is Greg Draiss. I got to really say thanks to Brad Mayfield out here, who, if you remember, he was on a couple nights ago, and for some reason there was only his audio, so he was doing a one-man show, but and since he did most of the talking, it ended up being a good episode anyway, but for some reason my voice didn't record, so we are not doing it live tonight. We are recording, and then I will upload this shortly after to YouTube, and then see if I can get it on our Facebook page. Vinyl Frontier podcast is all about conversations with folks who like their music on vinyl. Now, I do have more CDs than I have vinyl because I had an online radio station, and it's easier to upload CDs than it is vinyl. But we're all about vinyl on the Vinyl Frontier podcast. You can listen to us or watch us on YouTube on the Vinyl Frontier podcast channel. If you want to be a guest, by all means, give me a holler on my Facebook page, the Vinyl Frontier podcast page on Facebook, or leave a message on YouTube and we'll get you on. We've got a show tonight, Brad Mayfield coming back, and tomorrow night we have Chuck Mann. Sunday night is Charlie Edwards, and then next Thursday night, a musician and recordist that just moved into my neck of the area, Brian Eller, will be on. So hurry up, get in line. The line is growing. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Brad Mayfield, who told me that he had to drive a little bit fast to get back. So I'm going to tell him, if you got a parking ticket, just pass it on to me and I'll frame it and I'll pay half of it for you. Good evening, Brad, and thanks for coming back on.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks. How's the weather down there? Is it still nice and warm?
Beautiful day. I think it was 76, 77 degrees today. Perfection.
Wow. I can only hope for that. They told us over the weekend that it was going to be a pretty nice week, like up in the 40s most of the week. And then yesterday they pop on us. We were supposed to get 3 to 6 inches of snow, and that forecast is blown. I don't know how the weather forecasters are down there, but up here they are terrible. And they're talking about 14-day forecasts for warm temperatures. They can't even get the forecast right from yesterday morning. But they got 2 more tries. They got to try again tonight, and they have another storm coming on Sunday. It's not anywhere near 70. It's about half that. As a matter of fact, Saturday morning, I was going to go up to Lake George with my son, who's a motorsports photographer, and help him photograph cars and trucks racing on a nearby lake with 14 to 16 inches of ice underneath them. But anyway, we're here to talk about music. So, Brad, why don't you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about yourself, what you collect, when you started. Did you do like most of us young men do and got out of it during the time raising families, and when you got more time and weren't putting them through college, a little bit more money to spend on records? So tell me a little bit about your collecting history and what you collect.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I, started when I was young and, had some records, had some vinyl probably that my parents bought me, and then quickly moved into CDs and, or cassettes, into cassettes, was mowing lawns, and every dollar I got from mowing lawns, I'd immediately go to the local, it was called Sound Warehouse, and I'd go spend all my money on hair metal bands, Bon Jovi and Cinderella, buy them all. And then, then CDs, during that era, I worked at a record store all through college and primarily CDs during that period of time. And then, I made the stupid decision at some point to just sell all that physical media, because why would I need it? I can stream everything, and
Exactly.
Regret that, of course. And then, yes, exactly what you said. My kids are both young adults now, one out of college, one almost out of college, and got some time and maybe a little extra money at this point. And so back into it, collecting primarily vinyl, trying to relive my youth and replace the records that I had, mostly 80s and 90s, pop, some metal, a lot of new wave stuff that I loved. So that's primarily what I do.
So you're a couple of years younger than me. You said you're 54?
Be 55 in a month or
55
so.
in a month. Okay, I'll be 64 in 3 weeks. Gosh.
Okay.
And something popped up online today. It showed some young kid in a record store, and it says it's hard to believe that the 70s were 50 years ago. So, as far as the new wave, you caught that when you were in your late teens and early 20s, because I remember the 80s. I was from 1982 on. I was in my 20s, so you caught that at a good age when you were like 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember standing in the bedroom of a good buddy of mine, and he put on one of the Cure, the "Standing on a Beach," which was kind of a greatest hits. I didn't realize that at the time. Their early stuff, and I thought, wow, this is super cool, and took off from there. Probably 15 years old at that point.
Got it. I think I bought my first album. It was kind of I borrowed it from a neighbor across the street. We found a bunch of records up in the barn. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Four-Way Street, the double album. It was a little scratchy, but you're still from the generation that we tolerate scratches and pops and clicks on albums. Chicago Transit Authority was in there. I mean, just classic stuff. And it was only a couple of years old because that was in the mid 70s when I did that. But the classic that I absolutely fell in love with was Yes, Tales from Topographic Oceans, that double record, psychedelic concept record. And for some reason, that's been like my crown jewel. Played it until it cracked and popped and didn't play anymore. But tomorrow, coming in the mail, I've got I think it's the 50th anniversary or 53rd anniversary of that album coming from Rhino Records, and it's all upgraded and such. They did have a 12 CD 2-album set and a Blu-ray. It was like $200, but I got this same thing that I had 50 years ago, but I got the double record set for $40. So, nice. And I do remember The Cure. I do have one of their albums here, and one of my favorite bands, as we mentioned before, from New Wave era was the Fabulous Poodles, Split Ends, and there's another Australian or New Zealand group, which I forget. But anyway, that's where we are. So, 90s. Did you still? Would you start collecting in the 90s? Because New Wave was pretty much done by then, and the big change in music in the 90s was kind of like the lost decade for popular music, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly rode that wave of grunge, I guess. I remember I was working at the record store in college the first time I heard the first Pearl Jam record, and I just thought, wow, this is it. And then that Smashing Pumpkins Siamese Dream was fantastic. Still loved, probably leaned more into that and heavier. A lot of metal. The heavy metal band Pantera is from our area here in Dallas, and everybody knew about them here and really, really loved them, and Metallica and some Slayer and that, but more really the stuff that I fell in love with and still listen to on repeat is, Nirvana and Soundgarden and Smashing Pumpkins and certainly Pearl Jam, probably top of the list.
Yeah. I kind of fell out of the music scene because I got married in 89. Bought a house in 89. We had we had all our kids in the 90s. 4 of them in the 90s, and one of them, I think, around 2000. He just turned 25. Yeah, so 2001. So busy making babies, busy getting the career going. Mom's a stay-at-home mom, so I had to, you get home, you got all the shopping to do and putting the kids to bed, then you got to save time for your wife, and I really didn't have much of a stereo back then. Had gotten into CDs by that time, probably had 100 albums and 100 CDs, and really did not get back into music scene until when my 25-year-old was 13. He asked me about what was so great about the 80s, and I said, "Where's Mom? Is she home?" "No, she's out with Abby and Matthew doing something, getting school clothes or something." I said, "Grab a beer out of the fridge, come over, and I'll tell you about the 80s, which was the great decade." And then he started going to concerts, and they've all been out of the house for 3 years, and it was 3 years ago that I started buying not brand new, but all the old albums that I had plus a bunch extra. So I'm up to, I think, 700 albums and 2,400 CDs. And a good friend of mine that's been doing this for a lot longer than I have, he says, "That's all you got?" He says, "Come on." I says, "I'm retired, and it would take me 7 or 8 years if I played one a day just to listen to them." So,
Right.
so you got back in recently, or how many years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been within the last really heavy within the last 18 months.
Ah,
My
okay.
son, yeah, my son is a junior at Texas A&M
Mhm.
University, and before he went off to college and high school, he said, I'd really like to start listening. My friends are listening to vinyl records. I'd really like to
Oh, wow.
maybe start doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and has always loved music, but he said, let's try that. So we get a inexpensive turntable and
Mhm.
inexpensive speakers and set it up. He gets a couple records, I get a couple records, and I said, you know what?
Cool.
I up in my closet have a box full of things that I collected during college. Um, some memorabilia, some autograph stuff. Let me get that down. I'll show it to you. And I'd forgotten, I don't know why, but I'd forgotten that I had some of these records and they were all still sealed. So,
Oh, cool.
I got them out. Yeah. Yeah.
So you'd
Yeah,
also meant okay, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah.
You
So
mentioned you have
it was, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's a delay. My bad.
yeah,
The last thing I was going to say is, you know, we, I had no concept of it was all the stuff I loved, and I just bought one record
yeah.
store and I thought it was neat to collect it. I never bought, I didn't have a way to
Mhm.
play it back then. And so I just dumb luck that it survived this long and that's it.
That is really cool. So, um, you know the story what happened, in the '90s with, media, the '80s, I'm sure since you worked in a record store, the '80s were the biggest decade for music, for radio stations, for newspaper, for TV, and then this nasty little thing called the internet came along. How did you find out about new stuff in the '90s when, like, Spotify and all most of the streaming services weren't around? So where did you find out all the new music?
So I was very fortunate that from basically 1989 through 1994, actually 1995, I either worked in that record store or managed it, and so it was just a constant barrage of
Oh, cool. Okay.
information. We had record label reps coming in trying to promote, helping us build displays. So um, it was mostly that. We had a couple local radio stations that were kind of, well, one was called The Edge, I think 94.5 The Edge, and it was kind of an
Mhm.
alternative college radio type, station. And so
Yep.
uh, through that, but mostly through the record store and talking to people there.
And did you see right around the early '90s the writing on the wall that physical media was gonna disappear quicker than we wanted it to?
That's a great question. So I will tell you exactly when I realized that. I thought
Mhm.
I just gotten a business degree from University of North Texas, and the manager or the regional manager of the store where I was working came in and he said, "Hey, listen, you got this degree. We want to put you on the fast track, manage a store." It was a corporate owned
Yeah.
Camelot Music, right? So we want to put you on a track, and maybe you can get to the home office, maybe you can become a buyer or whatever. I mean, I just thought it was going to be my
Right.
career, and not too long after that, the mall where my store was located, out on the pad outside the
Mhm.
mall, they built this Best Buy, and
Yep.
so I went. I went over to Best Buy one day and I was looking at CDs, and I called my regional director and I said, "Hey, they're selling CDs for less than we buy them for." And he said,
Exactly.
"Yeah,
Yep.
that's the concept of the loss leader." Uh, and I said, "Well, we can't compete." So I knew that
Yep.
business, that record store business was not, it was doomed, right? But then also Camelot was trying to innovate, and at one point said, we are going to have basically kiosks in our stores where a person can come in and they can make their own CD. You can choose 10
Oh,
songs
wow.
and you pay and it'll
Mhm.
create a CD. And so one of my other friends who was on that management track too, I called him after that meeting and I said, yeah, it's over. It's over. We need we need to find different jobs. And he and
Oh,
I both
man.
did within the next 3 or 4 months. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
talk about how quickly CDs came because I graduated high school in 1980, and CDs, they were just talking about them. And I still wrote a column for our high school newspaper a couple of years after I left because they wanted me to still write. And I remember in 1982 still writing about CDs, and then eight years later, they killed the record album business, and then the internet killed that. Okay. So you have some pretty specific rules when you're out buying those records that you told me about. I want to share that and why you buy that way.
Sure. Yeah. I told myself when I started getting back into this and invested some money in some, equipment and speakers and that I wanted to build a collection that I would pass on to my kids, especially, my son is
Mhm.
really into music. But
That's cool.
but I was only going, yeah, it's really neat to share that with him.
Yep.
But I said, I promised myself I'm going to make a list and I'm only going to buy uh, records that I will enjoy listening to all the way through. Every song, no skipping around, no hits and we're out.
Yep.
So would I would sit on the couch or lay in bed, looking at my phone, and I built this list over time, and it was easy at first. I had the first 20 or 30, um,
Yep.
but I added to it and added to it and added to it, and before long, I had maybe 125 on this list, and I kept it in my
Mhm.
notes section on my phone. When I'd find one, obviously enter things into Discogs. I discovered that, but then I'd chop it off my
Yep.
phone and start working down the
Mhm.
list. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of Discogs, I've bought a few things off there, but I know a lot of people will put their catalog on there. How do you catalog your music? By genre, by band, by year, or just simple alphabetical?
Just alphabetical. I it
Mhm.
was wearing me out to try to categorize. Maybe later,
Yeah.
maybe later, but right now
Yeah.
it's just. I mean, I think they have. I looked at it today. I think there are maybe between cassettes, CDs, records, and even a few 8 tracks. I think there are maybe 675 items on my list. So it's not like it's crazy.
Mhm.
It's easy to go through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do mine alphabetical, and right now it's
Mhm.
on my notes on not on my phone, but it's on my iPad, and I call it like a hybrid Dewey Decimal System. So anything, and I've only gotten so far through the letter F on CDs. Um, so I got the rest of that alphabet to go in the whole boxes of albums to do, the vinyl ones yet. So anything that starts with the letter A goes under A. So Aerosmith is A 1.0. The second Aerosmith is 8.1 is Aerosmith. 8.11, 8.12, 8.21 might be Alabama, like that. So A1 is, and if I get 27 Aerosmith albums, it'll be A1 point blah 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 27, however that goes. So
Wow.
and then because I right now I go flipping through them and I'm like, oh wow, I've got that, I've got this, I've got that. So I want to make it so I could just come down and put my iPad up on the stand and click through and say, oh, let's play that one today. So next question I got for you is where today do you buy your vinyl from, and what's your favorite record shop, either local or online?
Yeah, boy, I was shotgunning it at first, when I first started this
Mhm.
18 months ago. I mean, it was Walmart or Target or whatever. I didn't really have a concept of, and it was easier too because of course I had Dark Side of the Moon and, the Black Album by Metallica. So on my list, so that was easy. You could find that
Mhm.
anywhere. But then I started having fun shopping around, and there are a ton of good little stores actually in Dallas. But I have narrowed it down now. I buy the vast majority of my stuff from a little shop in McKinney, Texas, which is north of Dallas, it's called Red Zeppelin Records. So not Led Zeppelin, but Red Zeppelin, and it's owned by a woman named Katie and her husband. Katie's the primary owner, and we're about the same age ish. She's a little younger. Just the coolest people. So found a company to seal, but it's really the preserving of it.
Sure. Now you mentioned, which I didn't realize, if you send a sealed, unopened record to the grading company, they don't look at the vinyl. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And
wow.
When I spoke before this podcast, I took a lot of heat when I posted these on some of the Facebook groups and everything, because people said, "Well, you can't even tell if if the vinyl's warped or not. It's sealed." And I'm like, "Well, yeah. I mean, I play copies of all of these. I love all of these albums. Specific copies are very special. They're very special to me. I don't want anything to happen." So yeah, I mean, and that's. I think the big point of contention with people is, well, they're grading the seal, the shrink wrap, and the the corners, the album cover, but they're not actually grading the media that's inside. That's well, I mean, yeah, is the answer. That is the way that works.
So there could be something that gets sent in, and if they're not careful enough, let's say they forgot to put the record into the sleeve or into the cover. I'm sure they would catch it based on the weight, but if you get somebody that that, like some of the coin grading companies, it's rush, get it done. Someone's going to possibly miss that at some point. So I found that really intriguing that they don't open the inside, because I guess that would open up a whole nother can of worms. So they say, we'll just leave it as it is. So you said they grade even the shrink wrap. So if the shrink wrap is crooked, that counts if it's not tight enough. I'm sure they take it points off if it's too tight.
I guess. I mean, the only thing I've really seen them, I think that Guns N' Roses got dinged because the shrink is it's not torn, it's all intact, but it's a little loose, where that Tori Amos was almost perfect. I mean, it looked like it came out of the box from the record company. I mean, the thing, I think it's 9.5 is what that one got or something. And he told me that really the guy that was doing this, one of the owners of the company, the Vintage Media Grading, he said, you'll get a little bit of a deduction because you leave the sticker, the price tag on the cover. Usually we take those off and remove the sticky, residue. And I was like, yeah, don't take that off. That means the world to me. So, yeah, they left it on. So, it probably would have gotten a 10 other than that. Yeah.
That's interesting because with a lot of antiques, because one of my sons is into antiques a little bit, or even if you watch Antique Roadshow, if you refinish a piece, you get deducted for that because they like to see some of the patina on it. If it's something like a chair that's meant to be sat on, they like to see that, because if the chair you bring in, it looks like it's untouched, they can tell it's been redone. I would think it would add some provenance and some, definitely some legitimacy that, hey, this is a real album because look, it was $1.99 in 1972 or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, the VMG guys, Vintage Media guys, did a whole podcast episode themselves on, a big part of a podcast episode on just that, on leaving, the debate when they were setting up the parameters to grade. Should we take off for that, or does it add value and provenance to the whole thing? So I think there's two camps there, but they just made the decision that was going to be their standard going forward.
I would hate to be the guy taking those stickers off 30 or 40-year-old or 50-year-old shrink wrap, because that's not high quality durable plastic that's on there.
Yeah, and that's what I told him too. I said, listen, no offense, but I don't want you to try, because you might rip it, and that that ruins the whole thing. You've opened the tomb there, and then the air rushes in.
Exactly. And you said you work with two different grading companies. You said one is local and another has like a ton of money behind them, but they're both very good to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, VMG, it was the one that did these records, and they were great. They're more of a mom and pop. It's just three guys
Mhm.
that did it, and just awesome guys, easy to work with. A lot of customer service. It took a long time to get them back. I did not do the rush grading, and so it took a long time to get those back. But then I used AMG, which is audio media grading, which is on this one. So as you can see, sorry for the reflection, it's
Nope, that's
basically the
fine.
same, basically the same format. They give a grade. This one was sealed too, and the only reason that I made the choice to use that group, back to what you said, they're backed by. I think a big investment group, but Steve Aoki, who the
Yeah.
famous DJ, is a big player in that, and they seem
Oh,
like
that's
they
cool.
very quick to get those
Yeah.
back, and they're pretty slick. They just happened to have a booth at the Austin Record Convention.
Mhm.
I was down for that, and had those with me. And I said, you know what, I'll give it a shot. They had a special deal and discount and all that. So,
Mhm.
I mean, choice between the two. I kind of like the guys at VMG. They just seem like, again, more regular dudes and
Right.
um, easy to work with. But both were great. I mean, no issues either way.
Cool. And do you track the values on any of the 5 there just for kicks and giggles to see what they're worth?
I mean, I have, and
Mhm.
it certainly varies. You
Right.
know, um, I think creeping up on $1,000 for that Appetite for Destruction, because it's that kind of band cover or whatever,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
it's got the right hype sticker on it and all that,
Yeah.
which that does add value. And
Okay.
then the Soundgarden is, I guess, because of the coating that's on it, you can tell it's the orange color variant, and that's pretty sought after. So maybe 600-700 bucks on that one if you were to sell it. The
Yeah.
others, 200-300 bucks, which I
Okay.
mean, again, never. I mean, I guess if somebody came along and said, "Hey, Brad, here's a check," or "Here's a briefcase full of money for here's 20,"
Yeah.
maybe, but no, I'm not interested in selling them.
All right. I'm gonna ask you the same question again and see if you changed your mind at all. So the one that's pushing $1,000, if you saw that a graded copy at a show, would you pay $1,000 for it today?
Yeah, that's a great question. No way. No. And that's
There
that's
you go.
yeah, and that's why I feel like a hypocrite a little bit, again, taking the arrows on posting this stuff. I get
Mhm.
what people are saying.
Right.
It's I'm not I wouldn't go seek out a sealed graded copy of a record that I loved. Um, it's like getting an autograph from a Wayne Gretzky. If I
Right.
bought a Gretzky signed card from somebody on eBay, it doesn't really mean that much to me. If I met him and he signed it and we got a picture together, 100%.
There you go. Yep, exactly.
So again, these have been in my
Mhm.
possession. I bought them with my little employee discount, 30
Yeah.
some years ago, and it means a lot to
Mhm.
me. It was a pivotal time in my life. So that's my
Oh, yeah,
that's my thing.
definitely. So where do you buy most of your vinyl from today? If you didn't have that record store around, where's the second place? You ever deal with people on Facebook Marketplace, record shows? How far have you traveled to buy vinyl recently?
Yeah, I mean, Austin is, a good 4 hours away from us.
Mhm.
So drove down for that big convention. That was cool. A little overwhelming to me. I'm not digging through every crate. I mean, I walked around every booth and
Yeah.
said, "Do you have these 4 or 5? Let me see them."
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
But anytime we were in Florida, kind of the panhandle of Florida, for vacation at the end of the summer, and I'd look for a couple record shops. Went to a local place and bought a couple. Facebook Marketplace for sure. I mean, I'm always looking for deals. I mean, I think
Mhm.
everybody else is too, but I
Yeah.
found a very, very, very early press of a Jimi Hendrix album where the cover looked like crap, but the vinyl was pristine. And a
Mhm.
woman was a few miles from me, and her father-in-law had passed away, and she got all his records. So
Yep.
went over and bought that. Had a little bit of a moral dilemma because she wasn't asking very much money for it, and I knew it was worth a lot. So I kind of met her in the middle.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere and everywhere. I try to focus on that local store because I
Mhm.
really respect them and like them and want to support them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
A couple times on the marketplace, I've paid 20% more than what the person wanted. Like the guy, he had a box, a heavy, business size, small briefcase that a DJ would carry around with CDs in it. And I said, "How many are in there?" He's, "Oh, I don't know, a couple hundred." Turned out there were 600 CDs.
oh my
And
gosh,
out of the 600, 540 of them were really good quality stuff. Um, all genres, going back to, the standards, Frank Sinatra, early country, common country, reggae, disco, popular rock, country rock, and he wanted $100 for it with the case. The case alone's worth 100, so I gave him 120 for that. And then a couple other people that had some albums. Gosh, go down. One guy's got 100 albums. He wants $50 for them. I'm looking through them. I'll give you 75 because they were such a good deal.
yeah,
And that's how I started rebuilding my collection. I just went out because I listened to everything except death metal, not too much disco, and gangster rap. So I had nothing. And I just said, let's just go bonkers. And people were selling these things, like I said, 600 CDs for $100 in the little sleeves out of the cases. I don't care. Another guy, Boxer Records, he had them all listed out,
right,
120 records, some duplicates, and I paid $80 for that. But now I'm careful doing it because I'm starting to get duplicates. I got a whole pile over here of CDs and records that I already have, but I don't care because I only paid a quarter for them. So,
right.
what's your holy grail that you have, or a holy grail that you're missing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few records that I have on my list that I don't think. Well, they certainly haven't been repressed, and
Mhm.
they were real limited runs. That I mean, I really want because it was a big deal to me when I was a little knucklehead kid mowing yards and loved hair metal. Ozzy Osbourne's Ultimate Sin album.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, that has never been repressed. You can find a bootleg, like a real high quality bootleg.
Yep.
But I kind of shy away from that. So I'm waiting. I'm assuming that his family will certainly capitalize as much as they can, and those will be repressed at some point. But I'd love to find an original copy of that. In fact, I found one at that Austin Record Convention, but it was just several $100s, and I couldn't bring myself to do that. Alice in Chains Unplugged, they have never famously have never repressed that one, and that's a definitely on my list, high on my list.
Mhm.
And then a few obscure ones that probably no one else likes except for me, which is why it's so hard to find. So
Yeah.
always, always on the lookout.
Yep. I don't even know where I got this album originally, but back in high school, 78, 79, and 80, we had a high school radio station. We just broadcasted at cafeterias on speaker wires, but we ran it like a station. It was a perfect cross between the movie FM and WKRP in Cincinnati. And I say the WKRP part because it was in the back of the broadcast area back in the high schools where they had the projection booth where they showed the movies in the three little windows, like you go to the movie theater,
Right.
and there was a catwalk up over top that went down over the auditorium, so you could so the guys could change the lights. So when we started the station, I was a sophomore, and there were a couple seniors, and they used to take their girlfriends up to climb up there and do whatever you do. And then the principal found out about it, and he had that door, which is like I don't know, kind of like it just pops open like a cellar door, like a flat door going down in the floor going to the basement or something. So he had it padlocked shut. So what these guys did was they took the screws off and then went up top, put the screws back in, and they epoxied the nuts in place. So if they wanted to go up there and smoke a little weed or hang out with their girlfriends, they'd have their friend take the nuts out, take the screws out. When they got there, put them back in. So the principal comes in and he don't know what's going on. The place is padlocked. And one of our other younger DJs, he had low blood sugar, so he's supposed to go down to the nurse every day and get a glass of orange juice to pump his blood sugar back up because he was hypoglycemic. And he snuck in a little flask of vodka every day. And then he's sitting there with his orange juice and vodka, and the kid's 14 years old. It's my orange juice. What's that? So I've got to do my radio show. Can't go down to the nurse's office. And then we called the FM part was there was a small station in Poughkeepsie, which is 75 miles from New York City, but New York City, the biggest radio market in the world at that time, and where we were 75 miles north, the markets go from 1 to like 200, and where we were was like number 150, but the number one market in the world was an hour and a half train ride down the train tracks to New York. But the local station was a really good rock station, and they had all the new people coming out. Dire Straits, the Police, the Knack, and you walk into their foyer and here's all the copies of the gold records thanking this little station in the middle of nowhere for helping them, get recognized. So that radio station would give us a couple of their promotional copies, and we would start playing it the morning on our station before this station would in the afternoon. And we had some kids coming there like, hey, you know that band that PDH just started? That you guys had that this morning. How did you get that? And we would joke around and say, we know people. Yeah. And we did when I took the station over when I was a junior, we did a battle of the bands, and the judges were from that station. And the first one, they walk in with 2 Warner Brothers record executives coming in. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're famous.
Wow.
So it was a lot of fun doing it back then. So.
I'm sorry, you mentioned FM. It's fun. I was at an estate sale and they had a bunch of records and was digging through, and it was water damaged, a bunch of stuff, and whatever. And I found this cover and it was black and kind of silver, and I'm like, man, this looks cool. I pulled it out and it was the soundtrack for FM, which I'm telling you, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know it was a movie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this has got. And it was, I think it was $3, and I bought it, just played it for the first time the other day. Sounded great. So yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna have to watch that movie.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I've never seen it. I never had a chance to see it, but it's out there on YouTube. But anyway, the obscure album I think I got from that radio station, they sent us, because they got a lot of rejects too, and this band was a reject. These guys were, you look at them now and like, wow, they're ahead of their time. They were like several years before Devo and a decade before electronic music. And the band was called Tom and Jerry's The Rockets, and they literally dressed up like spacemen with their silver uniforms and their skin painted silver and really weird stuff. And I would play it on the station, and my friend, who was the station manager, but I was the president of the radio station, threatened to throw me off. So I'm in Catskill, New York, in this little record shop that's about 700 square feet. I run this by him, and he goes, yeah, you got a picture of that? That sounds familiar. And he goes, I know right where it is. So 50 years later, I got that album back again, told my friend that, he says, you better not ever have that mention that when we're out to a bar again. So, and I think I only paid like $12 for it. What's the most you've paid for a record without going for the collector or a special edition?
Gosh, let's see. Probably in the $40-$45 range. I mean, unless it was like you said, a collectible or special variant or something. So yeah, 40-45 for like a double album,
Yeah. That's the most I've spent, and it was for a not Roger Waters, but Sid Vicious album. Just before he went like totally nutcakes at that point, and it's a bizarre record. It's really deep stuff. Kind of like a lot of the stuff that Brian Wilson was writing when he left the Beach Boys, all his transcendental mind trips and such like that. So that's the most I spent, but it was really good. Anything else you want to add? Because we are pushing the limits here to my recordability on Restream. They allow me an hour, and even if we were live, we'd get kicked off YouTube and Facebook at an hour. So, anything you're looking forward to collecting, or any advice you want to give somebody out there on collecting if they're just getting back into it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you really there is so much availability once you start looking, once you plug yourself into the world
Mhm.
of physical media, whether it's records or cassettes or CDs, that you can, and I've caught myself in this, you can get a little overwhelmed and maybe buy
Exactly.
things that you don't need, you don't want. And so I think it's important to really be intentional, make a list, think about what you're doing. As you're looking and browsing, it's fun to just go flip through, but
Yeah.
for me, I don't want to spend even $5 on something that I'm maybe once I listen and never again. It just seems like
Mhm.
a waste to me. So I think be intentional. As far as the the grading and slabbing, I don't know if you're okay with me touching on that again.
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, everybody calm down. Number one, uh, it is a thing. It is here to stay, and there is a market for it. There are people
Mhm.
that uh, do it as an investment, which sounds a little crazy, but there are, and you'll see some of the golden or heritage auctions where they sell some of this stuff, and it's just insane what
It's
the price
insane.
is.
Yeah.
But you as an individual or me are not going to affect the change in that. So if it's not for you, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But if somebody is posting about it or talking about it, I think you owe it to them to try to figure out what the intention is. And like for me,
Right.
again, personally, it
Mhm.
was preservation and some good memories. Right, I'm just bundling up some memories and trying to hold on to them, and
Right.
pass them to my kids. So that's it.
And don't mention it on a collector's site on Facebook unless you can handle the blowback, or do it
Hey,
under an assumed name.
yeah. I'm gonna start using your name from now on when I
Okay,
post
go
it.
ahead. Go ahead. Oh, one last question.
Uh,
Since you have very specific rules on buying records, have you ever just looked at a band and saw it in a thing that wasn't a lot of money, $3 or $5, and it just looked so interesting you didn't even maybe look the band up online and just took a stab in the dark at it?
um, yeah, sure. I mean, I at that Red Zeppelin that I mentioned, the little record store here
Mhm.
locally, I they have just like every record store, a little discount bin, and
Yeah.
I flipped through there and grabbed a couple things and thought it'd be cool. This may make a lot of people crazy, maybe you included, but I was at a essentially a flea market, and there was
Mhm.
only one guy who had records and in one booth, and he had maybe 6 boxes full, and he had a Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan that, I mean, I know who Bob Dylan is, obviously, but I've never been a big fan.
Mhm.
It was $2, and so I pulled it out, and I'm like, I'll just give it a spin. I took it home and listened to it. I'm like, holy moly, what was I thinking? Where has this been all my life, right? So,
Yep.
um, I mean, to that, like, I took a flyer on that because it was cheap, and I kind of recognized the name and that.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, I mean, I certainly have done that with at these estate sales and yard sales, and
Yeah.
um, problem that I have there is like I have a pile right now, like you said, where I just don't think it's going to stay in my collection, and I'm not going to keep it indefinitely. So I'll
Right.
probably try to sell it back or give it to Katie and
Yeah,
her
there you go.
people at Red Zeppelin. Yeah.
Yep. Well, big thanks to Brad Mayfield for coming back on tonight. We did have a little bit of audio issue, but at least we could. This time we know we're both being going to be heard when this goes up. Look for this later on tonight on YouTube. I got to download it and then get it up on the channel. It will be there tomorrow night. My guest is Charlie Edwards. It's going to be interesting. He's a music critic, former record store owner, radio DJ, and we'll be talking about all the reasons to collect, what to collect, and he's got some pretty good insights on which physical media he thinks is still going to be around when we're not. Sunday night, I'll be joined by Chuck Mann. He's a longtime collector from Philadelphia. He wants his big thing is finding out when other collectors, why they got out, why they got in, and what they're doing it now. And then next Thursday night, February 26th, Kyle Beller joins us from Chatham, New York. He contacted me on the Columbia County page, just the general community page, asking about, hey, where do I find out about music? Because he just moved into the area, and he's about an hour away from me, from my location, and told him about my favorite record store, the little local one called Spike's Records in Catskill, New York. It's small, it's clean, it's neat, ton of selection, and the guy just knows everything about music. And Kyle is a music producer and a collector. So you want to share your vinyl adventure with the world? Do it here on the Vinyl Frontier podcast. You can reach out to me on the Facebook Vinyl Frontier podcast page or through our YouTube channel. Or if Brad uses my name and gets me skewered for talking about collecting or just having records slab, you can call him and ask him how to get on the show. Brad, thanks again. I do appreciate your patience and jumping back on. It's a lot of fun, and maybe a couple of record shows from now, we'll get back on and talk about what our latest finds are.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This has been the Vinyl Frontier podcast. I'm your host, Greg Draiss. Conversations with folks who love their music on vinyl. Have yourselves a good weekend. Stay cool if you're